Tony Soprano is dead. Carmela and the kids are distraught. Patsy Parisi is quite gleeful.
Flush that turd down the drain!
But Tony Soprano is dead. Hey Sopranos fans, welcome to another episode here on Bully Whispers, and we are here today to discuss what would happen in the aftermath of Tony's death. That being said, we will not be looking into the potential suspects in this episode, but if that's something you would like to see, let me know down in the comments. Instead, we will start with a brief look at how his immediate family, Meadow, Carmela, Janice, and AJ would fare, before moving on to who will take the top spot, where we will look at the top contenders for the job, their respective pros, cons, etc., and we will end with how I could actually see the whole thing playing out. When we leave Meadow in the series finale, she is a terrible parallel Parker who is on her way to becoming a mob lawyer, although to be honest, I think she's a better Parker than she would ever be a lawyer. Either way, she is moved by a pompous sense of self-righteousness, which is very easily redirected, but it's important to note that her primary response is to defend her family from outsiders, no matter how much of an agitator she can be within it. We really start seeing this after Jackie Jr. is killed.
What, I gotta paint a picture? He was killed by some fat fuck in see-through socks. Take your pick, they all look alike.
The fact that you would even say this in front of an outsider is amazing to me.
And while I think Meadow knew Jackie's sister was right, she defended the family anyway, even offering up some supposedly corroborating evidence to back up the official story.
Your brother's best friend was an Israeli ex-dealer. I met him.
So it's no surprise, given her proclivities and engagement, that she is headed down that path.
If I hadn't seen you dragged away all those times by the FBI, then I'd probably be a boring suburban doctor.
However, seeing her father dragged out in a body bag may be enough to change her frame of mind from one where protecting her family means becoming a defense attorney, to one where protecting her family means becoming a prosecutor and going after the type of people who killed her dad, but whichever she chooses, she would pursue with passion. When it comes to Carmela, I think we need to be realistic, so I will start with the fan theory that she ended up with Furio, and I'm gonna have to go with a big fat no on that one. Carmela has no way to get in touch with Furio, so Furio would have to hear about it in Italy, still want her, and go back and get her. At this point, they would face two problems. First, where would they live? I don't see Carmela living in Italy, and I'm not sure Furio would want to live in New Jersey at that point. Second, as I mentioned in my Furio episode, I don't really think they had that deep of a connection. Since I explained it in that episode, I won't go into it here, but ultimately I think Furio is out of the picture for good. So, what happens to Carmela? Well, assuming the best case scenario that Tony left her with a good amount of money, I see her blowing through it with bad real estate deals very quickly, thinking she is much smarter than she actually is. I don't think she ever really appreciated the help that Tony's connections would bring, and she would charge forward with her business, trying to be like Angie Bumpancero with the body shop. While I think she is more than capable of supporting herself on a basic level, Carmela would certainly have to take a step down in terms of lifestyle, unless supported by Meadow, AJ, or a new man. When it comes to getting a new man, Carmela does have a couple takers in the show, so we know she can put asses in the seats, and both of her kids are grown, which is a luxury Janice does not have.
Need to watch my weight. Need to snag another husband.
With Janice, despite her craziness and the chaos she inevitably brings with her, credit must be given where credit is due. She has a knack for snagging mob guys, and if she manages to land another one, depending on their level of influence, chaos may very well ensue. Having just had her brother and husband killed, as well as possessing that legendary Soprano temper, I could easily see her working behind the scenes, trying to get a war started against whomever she deemed responsible. If she doesn't snag another mob guy, there is no way she will just sit on that anger. Instead, I could see her starting to encourage AJ to go down the mob path and avenge his father, which brings us to what would happen with AJ. AJ, like his father, is a man of extremes, and I don't see him going through a traditional grieving process and ending up with a normal life. Well, to be honest, I don't think he would have ended up with a normal life anyway, but definitely not after this. The question then becomes, would he go full-on gangster or completely implode? Typically, he tends to turn inward. However, when Junior shot Tony, AJ did show a willingness to go that route, even if he didn't have an aptitude for it. At this point, he wouldn't really have anyone trying to keep him out of the life other than Carmela, and we know how seriously he takes her when there isn't a bear around.
Mommy!
On top of that, he might actually have his Aunt Janice whispering in his ear, and if he does, I could see him attempting to go the gangster route. That being said, I don't think he would have been a good one, although his last name may be enough to get his foot in the mafia door, but who would be running the family he's trying to get into? After Tony dies, and assuming Syl dies too, there are three main candidates: Paulie Walnuts, Larry Boy Barese, and Patsy Parisi. Being the most laid back of the group, it's unlikely that Patsy would be aggressive in trying to take the top spot, so it would probably come down to Paulie and Larry, both of whom would think they had a claim to it. With Larry being the longest running capo of them, he could just say that he's running it through his brother till he gets out of jail. Of course,
In my book, you get points for staying out of the can.
so Paulie may very well counter that he has been made longer, ended up with Tony's crew, and currently controls the best money-making rackets. Now, Junior described Larry as being slippery, so he may very well allow Paulie to take the top spot, similar to how Tony let Junior, to be a lightning rod. After all, Larry already had his own legal problems. However, Larry continually shows a proclivity for snubbing good sense when it comes to his probation terms,
They ever show you these in medical school? They call balls.
so they might end up fighting it out, because while I can see Paulie being willing to take a backseat to Syl if he woke up, I don't see him bowing out to Larry or Patsy. Even if a compromise isn't reached, I don't see it turning into a full-out war, because the family had just been through a costly struggle with New York, and neither would want another war. That being said, if worst does come to worst, both of them have things going for them. Despite being in jail, Larry has a more direct pipeline to the street-level soldiers through Albert, and especially the up-and-comers through his godson, the criminal mastermind himself, Benny Fazio. Paulie, on the other hand, really doesn't, especially with little Paulie incapacitated for a while. However, money talks in that life, and Paulie is in the position to give and take no-show and no-work jobs as he pleases. With that in mind, the scope of the conflict would likely determine the winner. If they didn't want bloodshed and it became a diplomatic struggle or a war of attrition, Paulie would come out on top because he has the biggest rackets. However, if things got bloody, Larry would come out on top quickly due to his superior street team. This leaves us with who would make the best boss out of the three. Ironically, I think it's the one least likely to go for it, Patsy Parisi. He is the most low-key out of the three, and with his relatively calm demeanor, I could see him being like an Angelo Bruno. I think Larry Boy would be more like a John Gotti, with his willingness to openly antagonize law enforcement, and of course his flashy wardrobe.
Ooh, I like your shoes, Larry boy.
Yeah.
That may actually be one of the few genuine compliments we see Livia give, and we can't even see the shoes. Anyways, with Paulie, I'm not sure he would even make a good boss, although he would make an excellent number 2. As far as being a boss, I don't know if he would be able to deal with all the complexities of the position. There are a lot of moving parts in an operation like that, and while Paulie's straightforward style may come in handy sometimes, he is easily fooled when he tries to get into more strategic undertakings. Well, as always, thanks for watching this episode here on Bully Whispers. Let me know down in the comments how you think Meadow, Carmela, Janice, and AJ would fare, as well as who you think would end up coming out on top when it was all said and done.